like, why would you trade him? But I think if you look at their style of play and the players that they have, Andre might not be a bad fit for them.
Well, good one from the trades right there. But I don't know. I really don't know what to talk about when it comes to the trades. But I just hope that the Golden State Warriors get better for next season. And for LeBron James, I think he's happy with the trade and the players that he got.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, the Lakers are doing well, so it's not, such a big deal on that part. But I think one of the trades, Andre Iguodala, that left from, obviously he went from the Warriors, then ended up on the Timberwolves, and now he's with the Miami Heat. And we see Miami, they've been playing some really good basketball. Obviously, when you look at them and you think of championship, they're missing a few pieces, right? So I think Andre is going to give them that spurt that they need.
You think he's a missing piece?
He could be. He could be. Okay. I would like to see how he fits in. Obviously, he'll be coming off the bench, right? Yeah. But he's going to give you defense. He's going to give you hustle plays. He can knock down shots when need to. Obviously, he's never been a powerhouse scorer, but he will give you...
He's strong on the defense.
Yeah, defensively, definitely. I mean, he's proven himself over the years. And those hustle plays. So I think Miami could really do well with this Andre Iguodala addition. And, he's been working out. He's been working out hard. He's healthy now. So I really would like to see what he will do for the Heat and the addition he would make to the team. Yeah. They did lose Justice Winslow, but I think for them, this trade is going to help them get better.
Trade helps them get better as we wrap up with the stories coming from the world of the NBA. Now, let me run quickly through the fixtures of games that will be going down in the EPL, and we'll just talk about one game. And for the EPL, early kickoff on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Everton will take on Crystal Palace. Brighton will take on Brighton Hove Albion will take on Watford. And on the 9th of February, Sheffield United takes on AFC Bournemouth, and Manchester City will be at home to West Ham United. Going straight to the Spanish La Liga, Deportivo Alaves will take on Eibar. And on the 8th of February, Levante against Leganes. Getafe will be taking on Valencia. Real Valladolid against Villarreal. Atletico Madrid takes on Granada. Espanyol versus Mallorca. Real Sociedad against Athletic Bilbao. Osasuna takes on Real Madrid. Celta Vigo will be taking on Sevilla. And Real Betis will be taking on Barcelona. And in the Italia Serie A, it will be Roma against Bologna. Fiorentina against Atalanta. Torino versus Sampdoria. Verona will be taking on Juventus. And on the 9th of February, it's going to be Spal versus Sassuolo. Brescia will be taking on Udinese. Genoa will be taking on Cagliari. And Napoli will have its tough against Lecce. And Parma will be taking on Lazio. And the Italia Derby, Inter Milan versus AC Milan. We'll get to see Ibrahimovic play against Inter Milan. I'm sure it will be a strong one to look forward to. And in the Bundesliga, it's Frankfurt against Augsburg. Schalke will be taking on Paderborn. Hertha versus Mainz 05. Freiburg against Hoffenheim. Wolfsburg against Fortuna Düsseldorf. Werder Bremen will be at home to Union Berlin. And the French Ligue 1, Paris Saint-Germain, that's the biggest one to look out for in France. Paris Saint-Germain will be taking on Lyon. Now, coming back home to talk about the Nigeria Professional Football League games will be going down this weekend, talking about match day 19. And Enyimba of Bar will be taking on their opponents in that one, Abia Warriors. Yes, Abia Warriors. And Katsina United will be taking on Warri Wolves. Aqua United versus Rangers International. Sunshine Stars will be taking on FC Fanyoba. Adama United versus Heartland FC. MFM against Kano Pillars. Strong one to look out for at the Agege Township Stadium. Rivers United will be taking on Kwara United. Dakada FC will be at home to Plateau United. Lobby Stars will be taking on Vicky Tourist, and Jigawa Golden Stars will be at home to Nasarawa United. As we go, let me drop this on marker. Yes, it's on the spot. But Barcelona, Lionel Messi. Do you think that Messi would one day leave Barcelona to play for some other club? Because it looks like the club is built around Messi.
Of course not. I feel like he's been there for so long. I think the world would be shocked if he actually leaves. Messi is Barcelona.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no Messi and Barcelona without Barcelona and Messi. Like, it just makes sense. I believe he will finish out his career. And he doesn't have that many years to go. So I just feel like moving now, like if you were going to move maybe last year or the year before that, like what do you actually want to achieve? Yeah, we see Ronaldo, he moves around, he wins a cup here, he wins a championship there and move on. But for Messi, like where would you go first?
Yeah.
Like where could he go to the English, Premier League? Like where do you see him other than Barcelona?
Yeah.
I don't see him going
If you would compare both of them, which one of them would you pick as the best player?
Ronaldo, definitely.
Ronaldo. Why all the women crushing on
I'm
Ronaldo?
a Ronaldo
Maybe
fan.
Messi needs to
But
grow.
no, he's great. Like, look at what he does. Like, and I think the difference between, for me, Ronaldo and Messi is when it comes to the big stage, Ronaldo performs.
Yeah.
Messi sometimes let things go. And I feel like over the last few years, there were cups that he should have been able to bring home that win for Barcelona. And in the big games, he kind of doesn't show up. So, I mean, hey, Ronaldo all the way.
Ronaldo all the way. It looks like all the ladies are supporting Ronaldo. Then the real football fans would say Messi is the best of both players. But then both of them, I think they're incomparable. Both of them actually stand out in their own world, Ronaldo and Messi. And for like a decade, they've been ruling the world of football. And I wonder how long that will continue for. Well, that's our draw a wrap on today's show, Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. Thank you, Maka, as always.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure.
All right, we're looking forward to the Lagos Marathon. I hope you'll be running tomorrow because I'll be running tomorrow with my cameras and microphone. I don't think Maka will be running tomorrow.
No, I will not be
Why?
running
Why?
tomorrow.
It's a good workout sport.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've never been a marathon person.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I can run up and down the court for a ball, score, play some defense.
Yeah.
But just to be running continuously, I don't know. It's not my thing.
All right. So I'll be running tomorrow 42 kilometers with my cameras and microphone. So join me tomorrow as we run the race, Lagos City Marathon. I'm Udoka Njoku. Do enjoy the rest of your day and have a great weekend.
Mona Lisa is all about me. It's all about you. It's all about our stories. The stories that never get told, but ought to.
Whereby water transportation does not make financial sense, it makes economic sense.
I was there for 2.5 hours on the floor. Nobody attended to me.
If we don't take care of the poor will take care of us.
It's about getting at the root of things and hearing from the horse's mouth.
We have 15 public hospitals to make them affordable.
In the whole of Africa, we are bigger. Nigeria, we sleep, eat, dream, fashion.
Those with the financial backing don't see fashion as an investment, which makes no sense.
If they do it for free, they won't have money for the next case.
Mona Lisa is about real life and real lives, yours and mine. Make a date with Mona Lisa, and together, let's ensure that the important stories get told.
Goal 10 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals speaks largely about eliminating inequality amongst countries and peoples. The United Nations clearly recognizes that businesses can also exacerbate inequality by being complicit in perpetrating biases and discrimination. The question, however, is, how exactly does this resonate with Nigeria? Lagos is the most populous city in Nigeria and has millions of persons. Among these are little persons also, often found in Osborn in Ikoyi. They are trying to make a living as they grapple with inequality and discrimination because of their physical appearances. Wisdom Abba and his wife Joanne are one of the little persons who moved from other parts of the country into Lagos to make a living by getting employed despite their physical inadequacies. They say that in Lagos, they had hoped to win the battle against discrimination, but this fight, however, seems to be a lost one as they are constantly marginalized by some employers while hunting for jobs.
Sometimes, somebody will promise me at where I'm selling market. Just we drive car, we say we find work for me. I will pull up on that person. At last, the person will not. They will not find a job because promise me. Many of them.
When I want to look for a job, they said they can't give me a job, that I'm too short, that I should go.
This couple is not the only little person seeking an end to discrimination in job hunting. Nkubi and Shapali are celebrity broadcasters. They too say that they have had a painful taste of societal rejection.
I got called up for an interview. One of the management now walked up to me and told me that, look, I am sincerely very sorry. You are not the kind of person we are looking for.
My sister, growing up, she'll be like, Daddy, where do you get this thing from?
Though Shapali comes across as a very confident woman, she says growing up was torturous.
I'm talking to you, I don't know my mom till now. She ran away because I am a dog.
She adds that her self-esteem was dealt a devastating blow for even thinking of marrying a tall man and begetting tall offspring, as her mother-in-law rejected her.
I had a relationship that the guy, took me home to the mom. And I was there in their living room, seated, and the guy went to call the mom. The mom came and I was like, where? Sorry, oh my dear, sorry. Where is the wife? My son said he brought. And I was like, it's me. And like, stop joking now, how will it be you? My son came up to come that he brought somebody, I was not accepted.
Bash and Iyatokpe are 9-to-5 persons. They reveal that they have also been treated with inequality countless times.
My own junior brother, the one that follows me, he also thought I'm kind of like a junior to him. We usually fight every day.
I go one place. I say they find person will go sweep here. They say not true. I say I won't do it. You do it. Which hand do you want to take sweep here?
With only 12 years left to expunge inequality by 2030, only little is known if Nigeria will truly wipe out this menace. But Wisdom and his wife Joanne, Nkubi, Shapali, Bash and Iyatokpe continue to hope that someday they will be treated like every other human being. I am Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
INEC has deregistered 74 political parties. 18 survived the exercise and reactions have been swift. Plus, the announcement of the Northern Security Operation, Shege Kapasa, is facing its criticism, just like its southwestern counterpart, Amotekun. This is Plus Politics, and I am Felicity Ezewike. You're welcome to the program. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has deregistered 74 political parties on the grounds that they failed to meet the requirements for party registration. The deregistered parties are obviously not happy about this and have said they would take legal action against the commission. In reaction to these as well, the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria has asked the commission to reverse its decision that it was done without observing due process and the provisions of the law. Joining us to help make sense of these are two very distinguished guests. I'll start with legal practitioner Christian Wogu. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
And of course, we have the lady here, political analyst Adan Jamanze. Thank you for your time. All right. Before we get started, I think it's right we should take a look at the video of INEC chairman announcing the deregistration of the party at a press conference.
We can't hear what he's saying.
Despite the requirements of the Commission has determined that 16 political parties have fulfilled the requirements for existence based on Section 225A of the 1999 Constitution as amended. 75 political parties did not satisfy the requirements of the fourth alteration to the Constitution. However, one of the political parties, the Action People's Party, filed a suit in court and obtained an order restraining the Commission from deregistering it. Consequently, the party remains registered pending the determination of the case by the court. The new political party, Boot Party, BP, registered by court order after the 2019 general election, will continue to exist. Accordingly, 74 political parties are hereby deregistered. With this development, Nigeria now has 18 registered political parties.
From 92 to 18. Before we get to the legalities, what is your reaction, Ada?
I mean, for me, I said fantastic. Reason being, I don't know what we're doing with 92 parties. Some of the names, I had to take my time to look through I'm like, okay. And it was a bit of confusion for us, especially during the elections, because you could try to find the party of choice that you wanted to vote for, and you couldn't find that. And then we were seeing new parties, we didn't know their candidates. So I think it's a step towards the right direction, because at least 18, we can work with that for now.
Okay, I want to get your reaction before we get to the other parts.
Yes, I beg to respectfully disagree with Ada. In my thinking, we actually need more political parties. We are evolving a democracy, and we should be allowed to grow the system. The system will ultimately determine whether we need more or we need less.
Well,
now,
isn't it her point about overcrowding? Is it in the current structure of 92 political parties, even at the presidential, state, and local councils?
Yeah, actually, like I had a brief discussion with Ada before we went on air, and I told her, in my thinking, we actually need more parties to accommodate different interests, different regions, different professions. I mean, we just need to have more space to express political interest. Eventually, we'll get from the best, because that's what Nigeria needs, and that's what Nigeria has been lacking all these years, the best. And the best has to come from the crowd, and not just by the will of man or autocratic impositions.
Okay, let's take a look at the legalities of this. One party, as we saw in that press briefing, went to court and have stopped INEC from deregistering it. And other parties are saying that they're going to go to court as well. My question is, will they succeed, considering that there was an amendment of the Constitution as of 2017, the section rather, that INEC chairman was referring to? In spite of that, do you think that they will succeed?
I believe they will. Now, the chairman is citing the Constitution, Section 22A of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And in fact, the provision says the INEC shall have power to. It doesn't give INEC an automatic deregistration power. It says, look, my car can do 240 kilometers per hour. Am I going to do 240 kilometers?
Well, what is the point of having power if you can't exercise it?
Yeah, no, you have to exercise powers with discretion. Now, some of the parties had just had one shot at elections in the last 2019 elections. They've not really found their bearing. And next thing you come, you say you deregistered them. I don't think it was fair. I think it's an abuse of power in my thinking. You see, the power is there. Nobody denies that the power is there, but it's a power that needs to be exercised with caution, with discretion, with properly taking into consideration.
Ada is smiling. Let's get her to react to your position.
I mean, you know, like he said, we had a conversation before the show, and I understand his point of view, but I still stand on the ground that, yes, it's good. We're a growing nation, so some of these parties need time. But I don't see, even if you give them the next 5 years, some of these parties are still going to be very irrelevant. Now, because of the way the nation has actually built herself to be. So I think, for me, I feel like yes, we want to try to allow people opportunity to express their political views, but we also want to build a strong nation, and we can't afford to be at that position where we have too many divided opinion, when we can actually come together, form a stronger opinion, and let that opinion be louder than the parties that have been there for over 10 years.
You know, while you were speaking, you actually was taken aback by your position, because most lawyers that I've spoken with say, yes, they should reduce the number of political parties. So you're saying that we should increase them. Just puts a lot of question in my head. And one of them is, if we have this, one of the things you mentioned was the aesthetics. People can barely remember these parties. And from your own assessment, in the last election, they could barely put up candidates, not to talk of, becoming a voice that people can hear. Wouldn't it be more productive if they pull their forces together, like some of these smaller parties come together, be stronger, and have more weight?
Now you find that, let's even take that for granted without conceding that that's what we need. The process of getting there would not be the way I think the INEC chairman had gone with it. Now, look, these parties, they had rigorous registration processes. They showed a spread across the nation. There are certain requirements. I've been involved in party registration. And eventually, INEC registered them based on and of course, refused to register others. So that means that this ones had scale trees, like somebody had gone through the university and gotten a first class, and next time you come and say, well,
it's been revoked.
Yes,
so what would have been the right way for INEC to handle this situation now?
I think two ways. I was thinking about two ways. One, it could have gone judicially, go to the court, because it has powers. It has been given powers to do something. In fact, it's like INEC shall have powers. Now, I believe it needs another intervention, either the legislative house or the court, to actually put that in perspective, so that in the course of appropriate hearing, every other person can come in with a view that will ultimately produce a balance. You could say, yes, this was considered opinion, but unilaterally going on air to deregister parties that had appropriately been registered, going through due process, in my opinion, is inappropriate.
Like I said, I'm beginning to see your point, but then the argument still persists. Let's move a little away from that so we can capture as many areas as we can of this conversation, and that's some of the reactions that are coming in. We have IPAC, that's the Inter-Party Advisory Council in Nigeria. They're saying that the registration of the political parties, the decision runs contrary, let me use the word, contrary with the provisions of the law. Does it really? I come back to you.
Yeah, really, thanks, Felicity. The point is, IPAC is saying that they are in court with INEC already, not to deregister parties, and that the ruling is going to come on the 17th of February.
Yeah, I think I saw that story, but it wasn't confirmed whether the case was actually in court.
Well, that's a matter of, any matter in court is a matter in the public jurisdiction. Anybody can do a search.
So do you think that INEC is preempting?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. If it's actually in court, and I don't see why IPAC should come and say they have a matter in court if it's not in court, it means that INEC is actually running contrary to the rule of law. It's undermining the court system. And for an arbiter of that magnitude, it's not right.
All right, let's take another reaction. This time is from the national chairman of the All Grand Alliance Party, AGAP, I think that's what it should be, AGAP, Oke Shikwendo. He's describing INEC's decision as unconstitutional and an evidence of misplaced priority. He obviously agrees, but do you?
I mean, I understand where he's coming from with INEC and the legality of the deregistration. But this is my question. Were some of these parties informed before this final information of, before this final conference of deregistration, deregistering the party? Because these are some of the conversations that we need to have. What were the conversations being had behind closed doors? These things, some of these parties were aware. I still stand on the ground that, yes, I understand that it was a very rigorous process to register these parties, which I feel that if you have to put them through this process, then why get to this point? We would have avoided all this situation. But it is still a way forward.
Okay, I'm going to come to you to ask you about a reaction that we got from the National Youth Council of Nigeria. But before that, I understand we have the chairman of ANRP, that's Tokwe Fasheru. Thank you very much for joining us on the phone.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, thank you. So what is your party's position? Will you be going to court like the others?
Absolutely. In fact, we are one of the 33 parties that are taking this matter to court. However, the INEC, in its unfortunate impunity, decided to preempt the judgment of the court, which is coming up on the 17th of February. And they decided to do what they did, which is totally against the spirit of the law. And they deliberately misinterpreted the Constitution, in fact, the amendment that they deemed to rely on. So it's a very egregious and unfortunate incident, and reminiscent of the impunity that this government is now known for and popular for.
How confident are you that if you go to court, I mean, the court is going to rule in your favor?
We still have faith in the judiciary, in as much as we've seen that the judiciary has come under attack under this government. After all, they removed the whole Chief Justice of the Federation in such an ignominious manner. However, we still have faith that we will get justice through the courts. It's very simple. Even a kindergarten lawyer will be able to interpret that law, interpret that constitutional amendment and tell INEC clearly that it has heard. So we don't have to have a PhD in law in order to see that the last election in the last ward, in the last local government in this country must be conducted before INEC can exercise that supposed power that they have.
Okay, have you considered the possibility that the court might rule against you? And if this happened, what are your options?
Well, of course, the Federal High Court is where we are. And no matter what the ruling is, it can also still be appealed up to the Supreme Court. However, we have every confidence that any judge will see clearly what has happened and reverse that decision of the INEC. So we are very hopeful. We are very hopeful that this decision will be reversed.
Okay, would you consider, would your party and other parties consider a measure to strengthen your force so that people can take you a bit more seriously?
Well, listen, it's left to Nigerians, but let me tell you what's going on. That the situation is that the two parties that have governed the country have actually battered the people to the level that people are only just seeking for a few thousand naira to tide over 4 years. And so we are faced with what they call in democracy tyranny of the majority. So this idea that people should take us seriously if we match. Look, we have 190 million to 200 million people in Nigeria. We have 90 political parties. I don't believe it's too many. And in the US and the UK, they have more than 60 parties each. There's nothing wrong with that. Political expression cannot be stymied. And that's what these people are trying to do. Because, however, the very, very interesting and unfortunate thing is that they have also acted with impunity and without even contacting any of the parties. They treated us like cattle, and we must let them know that we're not cattle. If they have been used to dealing with charlatans in the past, they have another thing coming. In fact, they've bitten more than they can chew in this instance. And that, unfortunately, they have undignified themselves because they cannot undignify us. We are dignified people, we are respectful people, and we will be so treated.
All right, I'm afraid that's where we have to thank you now for your time. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Well.
Okay, so something he said that just triggered a thought in my head. He said the United States has, I'll take that question to you now. The United States has over 60 political parties, but the one that we hear of, we know that some of these parties are grassroots parties, and even in India, the parties climb through the ranks. You have the one that's at the national level and the ones that are at the lower levels. For the US, for instance, we have the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. These are the two major parties that you keep hearing about. So when he talks about the fact that they have all these parties, is that the scenario? I think I alluded to that earlier. Can we have that kind of situation replicated in Nigeria where we have maybe some major national parties and some other parties that serves different localities?
Well, see, my position is that whether we have 2, 3, 4, 1,000, like I understand they have in India, the system has to grow those parties to whatever capacity that they have. Now, you see, I am deeply involved in political party matters, and I know that one major thing political party does is to breed leadership. Now, eventually you find that one person moves from one party, growing party, after having been midwifed, and goes to another party, and then eventually to another party, and eventually comes out a leader. We can't take away that from Nigerians, because that's exactly what this arbitrary position of INEC wants to achieve. We need to allow the space to evolve by itself and come to exactly what we need. Now, you talk about the US, you talk about the UK, eventually there are two major parties, and same for Nigeria. There are really two major parties at the end of the day. But these other climbs, they grew into that. Nothing says that a party cannot come from the rear, ultimately, to come to become the major party.
All right. I was going to ask you before I got sidetracked, but I was going to ask you, the National Youth Council of Nigeria has described the deregistration of parties as a good omen and says it shows that the commission is poised to do well in 2023. Does it really, besides the aesthetics that you mentioned, of what benefit is this deregistration? Will it allow INEC to be a bit more effective?
No. I have a problem with INEC.
Okay.
It's a personal problem with INEC. My issue with INEC is when we look at the assessment of the last elections and look at how well they did, there's a lot that we need to ask questions regarding. Yes, when it comes to the party, I still stand my ground and say yes, I support the registration, but we also have to. I understand what he is saying. It allows the opportunity for freedom of political speech. But now we're looking at Nigeria now.
Okay, let's look at the reaction of the two major parties. We have the APC coming up to endorse INEC's decision, and one of their spokesperson, what is his name now? Yekini Nabena, he is saying that it's a good thing that Nigeria should consider having a two-party system. In your opinion, are we ready for that?
We've tried two-party system before in Nigeria, and we found that it ended up in crises, a lot of crises.
That was before.
Well, that was before.
This is now.
Well, of course, nothing says that also wouldn't happen. You must give people expression, let people fail gallantly, or eventually survive through the system. So I don't know whether I have expected any less from APC, because, of course, ultimately, they are believing that they will reap hugely from the action. I want to believe that's their thought line. But really, for the good of the nation, for the good of leadership, for the good of democracy, look, there is even no problem if ultimately due process is followed and the registrations becomes the ultimate goal. But in this case,
you have a problem with the way
process
it
is wrong, and that's process is as important, if not more important, than outcome. You saw the party chairman saying that they never had anything about this. That tells a whole lot for a nation.
Okay, I'm thinking about asking you on, you know, I think I've asked you this already, what better approach INEC would have taken, and you said due process. So I'm going to leave it there and go to you. Still on the APC reaction, they're saying that the umpire has done well, like I said, and they're going to allow for more serious players and more serious parties to come into the Nigerian political scene. Is that something you emphasize as a result of this deregistration?
No. Do you believe that statement?
Yeah, it's not my opinion.
I agree with him because, you know, everybody would say to the benefits of their own political party. But the thing now is, what's like you said, I understand that there's need for process. But again, what's the opportunity that APC has been letting the younger people? What opportunity have they been given? We haven't really received that. It's the same people over and over again. So I really don't see that changing. I just see that they see the deregistration as an opportunity for them to keep being one of the powerful parties of the country. That's just it.
All right. I guess final thoughts before we wrap this up.
I really think INEC should reverse this decision and promptly so that it doesn't enter into another crisis. Nigeria is actually, we've not been concentrating on development. It's just been from one crisis to the other, judicial crisis, legislative crisis, executive crisis,
security crisis.
Security crisis. I don't think the INEC chairman should add to all of that crisis.
Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
coming on the program. Thank you so much. I'll be back with you guys in a bit, but let's go for a short break. And when we return, we'll be talking about Operation Shege Kapasa, experiencing post-birth pains. Stay with us.
No fewer than 53 spouses have been allegedly killed in Nigeria by their partners from November 19, 2017 till date. This statistics is from the Daily Trust.
Domestic violence has been grossly underreported. Most of these cases are either taken to alternative resolute dispute,
family,
family court. It does not address the issues. Most people that do violently abuse their partners either saw it growing up or they were victims of it.
I don't know what the Quran says about it, but in Christianity, it frowns against divorce or, leaving your husband. And because of that, a lot of people who find themselves in such strong domestic violence or abuse, they're like, I can't leave my husband. My religion is against it. So it becomes a huge contender with their freedom or with, them opening up.
For people like that, what they do is alternative dispute resolution. They sit the husband down, they sit the wife down, they ask them, may we know your issues? But we Yorubas have this saying that husband and wife matter. Don't put your mouth. Don't go there. Because when they settle it, you become the enemy. I think.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bukky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
We have Christian Wogu, thank you very much. Pleasure. And of course, we have Ada Njamanze.